Welcome to the Deficient Vegans podcast, episode 40. Sounds like we're over the hill now. I'm the muscle deficient vegan here with the protein deficient vegan. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi, everybody. So this week, we're going to talk about understanding nutrition labels and nutrition information from recipes. And we'll also cover our myth of the week this week, which is that you need a restrictive diet to lose weight. But first up, new news. So the first piece of news we have here is that a French startup called Verlet Milks is creating an animal-free whey protein with precision fermented whey. It's kind of similar to some of the stories we've talked about previously with kind of the fermentation creating alternatives to some of the animal-based protein products.
Like egg whites, which we, I think, talked about last week.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got the egg whites. We tried them this morning. They're very similar to egg whites.
Yeah.
As you might expect.
Now, the cool twist on this product coming out in particular is that the first consumer product they're going to launch is a protein shot, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's like a very small bottle of clear liquid that is basically really dense with protein. And so they're typically sometimes, there's only a couple on the market now. The most popular one, I think, is Genius Shot. And it's either 20 grams or 40 grams of protein, basically in this shot you drink in one swallow.
Dude, that shit has to be nasty.
Yeah, but you don't taste it for very long.
I can't do shots, and I also can't do, like, liquids that taste bad or have a bad texture in my mouth. For some reason, I just chipmunk them.
Yeah.
Like, I just,
what do?
I just, like, hold it in my mouth, and I, like, physically can't swallow it. So that would be me with this, like, nasty little shot, I feel like.
Yeah, probably not for you. But
I would just sit there with holding it in my cheeks and wouldn't be able to swallow it.
It probably will be interesting for a lot of people. I'm sure they'll be quite expensive for the amount of protein you get.
Yeah.
But there are probably some scenarios, like if you're on a plane or something, you just want to get a dose of protein in for the next few hours, something like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So,
or like you're stuck in BF, Iowa, and I was stuck in Iowa a lot for my previous job.
Yeah.
And there's like nothing to eat, and you're like, you know what? I kind of need 40 grams of protein right now.
Yeah, there you go. So looking forward to seeing how that plays out. Next piece of news is Parados. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that, but it's a large confectionery company is launching their first cell-based chocolate to help address the cocoa supply chain issues for companies. This is targeted more at professionals using cocoa. So like a business that's basically making chocolate products, things like that. It's probably not something you'll find on the shelf at the supermarket.
This is kind of interesting because I only know about any of this because of the stuff Chocolate went through.
Right.
With just having trouble finding like suppliers that had ethically sourced cocoa that wasn't super, super expensive. So I think this would be interesting.
Yeah.
If it brings down the cost and like helps businesses use a more ethical source of cocoa.
Yeah, definitely. And Parados is working with a California food tech company called California Cultured to create this one. And then last but not least, there is a bill being introduced in Italy to make horses, donkeys, and mules classified as pets so that it is then illegal to slaughter them for meat.
That's awesome. I don't know why they do that anyways.
Yeah. Apparently, and I didn't know this, Italy is one of Europe's top consumers of horse meat.
That's odd.
Sounds like it's come down pretty drastically, but they are still one of the top consumers.
That's so interesting to me because, man, I don't know. I guess in the U.S., I feel like horses are something seen as like only like rich people have.
Yeah.
So it's odd to me. I mean, I guess, in Italy, maybe they're cheaper.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is strange. I mean, I don't know. How expensive is a cow?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Is a cow more expensive than a horse?
I don't know. My thing is like, okay, this is one thing I've never really understood is for me, horses and cows seem like the same.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we eat one but not the other. Like, for me, I don't know. Just like they're always in the field together.
Yeah. We both grew up kind of out in the country in Kentucky, so in Ohio. So horses and cows are always kind of right next to each other.
Just like vibing.
Yeah. But yeah, it is interesting for sure.
And donkeys, they're eating donkeys?
Yeah, I saw that. I
love donkeys.
I'm not actually sure if they were eating donkeys and mules or if that's just part of the law. Just
part of the horse law?
It's an equestrian thing.
This is interesting. Okay.
Are donkeys equestrian?
I don't know. What does equestrian mean? I thought that just meant horse.
We need some horse people to help us out here.
Ooh, fun fact is like one of the very first books I read as a child was called My Donkey.
Yeah.
It was like a book. I think it was a book my mom had. Like one of those little golden books from like
Yeah.
many decades ago.
With the flowery golden
Yeah.
border thing. Yeah.
But basically, there was a donkey with cold ears, and then this little girl, like the whole book is like trying to figure out how to get the donkey's ears warm, and eventually she knits some ear warmers. So I've always really liked donkeys.
I can't imagine why you ended up as a vegan. Between that and Charlotte's Web and Babe.
Yeah.
Your whole
Sneaky propaganda.
Your whole childhood was vegan propaganda somehow.
And then my parents were shocked. It's just, you read me a book about donkey ear warmers.
All right, let's get into the main segment here. And so the first thing we want to talk about on the nutrition labels is kind of the high level, the macronutrient breakdown on there. So there are a couple of prominent things you'll see on a nutrition label, at least in the U.S. They do look a little different, even in Canada, definitely in Europe. They look a little different, but they all basically have the same information on them, just in a different format. So you'll see the calories. In America, that's just listed as calories.
Per serving.
Per serving. Yeah, calories per serving is how America does it.
Yeah, I think other countries do it per 100 grams.
They do it different. Yeah, the common way to see it in Europe is like kilojoules per 100 grams, and then there's like also kilocalories showed with it.
Yeah.
Per 100 grams. And also, if you don't know, a kcal or a kilocalorie is the same as a calorie. Yeah. So a little bit of weird nomenclature there. But yeah, you'll see one of those measures on there is kind of the most prominent thing. And then it'll break it down by your macronutrients, which are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. And then sometimes you'll see under fat, you'll have like saturated fat. Under carbohydrates, you'll have fiber broken out. You'll have sugars usually broken out and some other things like that. But typically it's broken down by macronutrient in the top section.
Per serving.
Right.
Yeah.
Something else you'll typically see, again, mostly focusing on the U.S. version here, is kind of to the right of the value, like if you saw 10 grams of protein or whatever, over to the right of that, you'll see a percentage, which is called the percentage of the recommended daily value.
Mm-hmm.
And they base this on a 2,000 calorie diet.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're recommended to eat 2,000 calories. It's just a number they picked that at the time was like in the average range of what people eat. And so they're just basing all the numbers around that to standardize.
Yeah, I never really look at this unless I'm looking at like the vitamins.
Yeah, definitely not for the macronutrients. It doesn't make much sense to look at it.
No, especially if you have like specific goals. It's really not going to be super useful for you.
I'd say probably the one you might pay attention to is saturated fat, because you do kind of want to look at that. So you might pay attention to that one a little more. If something's showing it's like 20% of your saturated fat for the day, that might be kind of questionable. But
fiber's probably pretty accurate too, I guess.
Yeah, based on their recommendations of like 25 to 30 grams, depending on your sex.
I feel like the macro one's just weird because it's like, what if you're doing like a 30-30-20 split or a 30-30-40 split or something like that, or like... Yeah. I don't know. It could be whatever you decide. So they're not going to be super accurate.
Right. And none of those are for like, optimizing performance or anything like that. They're just what you should have to not get sick kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are kind of the main components you'll see in the top section. In the bottom section, you'll see, like you kind of said earlier, you'll see vitamins and minerals, and they'll have percent daily values of those.
Oh, and sodium.
And sodium. Oh, sodium's another big one. Yeah. And the percentage of those are helpful because you do want to make sure you're getting, all of your vitamins and minerals in a day. Also, the one of the things that might be confusing on labels is that the rounding is a little funky.
Yeah, if you go in and do the math, like if you're like, okay, there's 20 grams of carbs, let's multiply that by 4. There's 5 grams of fat, let's multiply that by 9. And there's like 15 grams of protein, multiply that by 4. And then you add all of those up and they don't equal the calories. That's pretty normal.
Yeah. And it's also correct. So even though, and you'll see this if you go to track apps like in MyFitnessPal or something, like those things aren't going to line up and you'll be confused. But you should always use the calorie value on the label and the macronutrient values on the label.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different reasons why they're not going to be 100% accurate, but it's not really worth trying to dive into that nuance.
You will drive yourself insane for basically nothing, because the other thing is just the calorie count in general could be plus or minus 10% off, and also your measuring could be plus or minus 10% off or something. Yeah,
this stuff all just works out kind of in averages over time.
Yeah, so don't get dragged into the minutia of it all.
Definitely. Also, I think another kind of popular issue with rounding is that things that are below a certain threshold can just show as 0.
Yeah.
So one of the more common ones of this is like the spray olive oil.
Yeah.
Because it says 0 calories, right? But
Mhm.
obviously an entire can of olive oil is not 0 calories.
Yeah.
So you do have to be careful with the rounding, and different countries have different rules for how you can round things and stuff like that. One also interesting caveat for the protein percent daily value, I see people kind of, if you do look at that, people kind of get confused about it. So for protein specifically, it will use protein quality to help calculate the daily value in America.
And by quality, you mean the completeness?
Yeah, the completeness,
and bioavailability,
right.
yada, yada.
Yeah, it uses a score. We talked about it before a couple times, I think, like the PDC-AAS score.
Mm-hmm.
It's about digestibility and the composition of amino acids. So if you might have a product that is like an animal protein-based product and a vegan protein product, and they could have the same calories, same protein, but the percentage on the vegan one will show lower.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they're factoring in the kind of lesser amino acids and the lesser digestibility potentially of the protein source.
Yeah, which also doesn't really take into account other foods that you're eating that would basically make the incomplete protein that you're eating a complete protein because you ate something else that has whatever amino acids we're missing from that.
Right.
I don't know. I've actually been seeing a lot of TikToks where like more omnivore type people are like kind of shitting on vegan protein sources because that number is so small, but I think there's a lot of nuance to it that's not really being captured.
Yeah, I mean, unless that thing is like all you're eating for a big portion of the day, it's really not super relevant. Especially when you're talking about like that percentage number, that's just not super relevant. Because even if the percentage is low, if you're eating 3 servings of it, you're still getting all your amino acids that you'll need. So yeah, but this is just to let you know why you might see a difference in that percentage.
Right, which I think is also why, like in previous podcasts, you've talked about maybe eating a little bit more than the recommended protein.
Yeah.
If you're vegan, just to account for some of that.
Yeah, if you're concerned about it, you can maybe bump it up 10, 15%, I think is what, the theoretical difference would be in the studies and stuff they've looked at. So basically just to make up for digestibility, make up for, incomplete proteins, things like that, you just bump up your total protein by like 10% and you cover all those bases.
Yeah. So, I mean, in my opinion, I don't look at that percentage on the protein because I think it's just kind of confusing and doesn't tell the whole story.
Right. And if you're eating, if you're targeting 100 grams a day, that might just mean adding 10 grams of protein a day. So not a big deal. Yeah. And then an easy rule of thumb, if you're looking at maybe protein bars or other things that you're eating specifically because you want to have like a boost of protein in your day.
Yeah, like a protein bar or like a protein shake that's pre-made.
Yeah.
Right?
Something like that, is to look at the grams of protein and compare that to the calories and make sure it's, if you multiply the grams of protein by 10, the calories are less than that.
Which would mean it's greater than 40% protein on a calorie basis.
Right. So there's 4 calories in a gram of protein. So if you do the math, and then if you have something that's 20 grams of protein and 200 calories, that means that you had 80 calories from protein, and out of that 200 calories, that's 40%. You would want that to be less than or equal to 200 calories to kind of hit that 40% threshold, which is what people consider like a good protein bar, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I've never used this rule of thumb, but I don't really eat like protein bars or really protein shakes. I mostly try to get all of my food around like that 25%, 30% range because I just eat kind of like normal foods that are higher in protein. Yeah.
This really kind of depends on like what your personal protein percentage is like in terms of your total calorie goal, because some people will need, if they're like on a calorie deficit or something and they're, higher body weight, higher muscle mass, they might need like 40% of their total calories to be protein. But most people probably only need like 20% of their total calories to be protein. I think anything over 20 to 25% protein is considered high protein by most standards anyway.
Yeah.
But as far as like a protein bar where you're like specifically eating it kind of like you would use a protein shake or like you said, a pre-made protein shake.
Yeah.
I think that 40% rule is just what people have kind of settled on as like, this is a candy bar versus this is actually a protein bar.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. And I think there are like a couple of options depending on like what kind of person you are and how you like to eat your protein. But like if you don't mind shakes and you just want to eat whatever you want normally, I mean, that's like a good way to do that. Just like you're going to focus on like very high protein dense shakes.
Yeah.
And then eat whatever regular food you eat. But like, me personally, I fucking hate protein shakes and I hate protein bars. So I just kind of try to eat pretty medium high protein foods all day.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're targeting like your day has to be 20% protein, you just eat foods that kind of hover around 20-25% protein, and then you don't have to worry about protein shakes.
Yeah.
But if you're like, okay, I like protein shakes, I don't care. Or you're like traveling a lot or like on the go a lot.
Yeah.
You can just drink 2 protein shakes a day, and then your food can kind of be whatever you need it to
want.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if you're like just starting out and you're trying to figure out like how to get your protein or like what things you should look for, you should figure out which type of person are you.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, are you the person that's just going to like make sure you're eating things that are above your protein target all day?
Right.
Or do you just want the freedom to eat like whatever and then you'll just supplement with a protein shake?
Yeah, definitely. And that'll help you kind of understand like what numbers you would want to look for on the label.
Yeah.
Also, something to note, food tracking apps like MyFitnessPal specifically and some of the others, the entries in the app won't always match what's on the label because a couple reasons. One, those are user submitted, so there could be just errors in there. Somebody doesn't know how to enter it or just types it in wrong, whatever. Also, products change over time and they keep the same barcode.
Yeah, Maury knew Silken Tofu's had a shrinkflation happen.
Yeah, shrinkflation's a big one. And so and sometimes that will even alter the macro composition a little bit. So you'll have like the calories are wrong. There's more protein now in the new formula. There's also now saturated fat for some reason, like little things like that'll happen. So I would just say, the first time you use something, just double check against the label at least. And then from then on, you can kind of use it from your history in the app most of the time.
And you can actually enter food on MyFitnessPal too. Yeah. Like I enter all my recipes on there as global food. So
yeah. All right, yeah, you can.
We can just track it.
I think you could submit corrections to some products too. It depends on which ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't done that.
It doesn't like fix it immediately, but it like flags somebody in MyFitnessPal land that something's wrong. I don't know what happens with those, but
yeah, you can also do quick entries.
Yeah.
On MyFitnessPal, like if something's really effed up and you don't feel like submitting something.
Yeah.
Just do a quick ad with the macros and
if it's
calories.
If it's something you think you're only going to eat one time and you don't want to enter a bunch of details for it, just And a lot of the times I might just quick add the calories and protein if I'm in a pinch or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also another rule of thumb is for fiber. If we're trying to hit 20 or 30 grams of fiber in a day, we can say, okay, does this thing we're eating have like at least 1 to 2 grams of fiber per 100 calories?
Yeah.
That'll get you somewhere in the range of 25 to 30 grams for the amount of calories that most people eat. If you're on a big deficit, you might need to bump that up a little bit for you, but this is just a rule of thumb.
Yeah. And then you can always take the protein shake approach of just like eat a bunch of food that doesn't have fiber and then eat a bunch of those low carb like tortillas.
Right.
That have a shit ton of fiber.
Yeah. No, that's a good approach.
Yeah. There are ways to get your fiber even if you don't have many calories.
So I know something people are very vocal about right now on the internet is like everything, all these new products coming out and calling themselves like protein products.
Yeah.
And I think it's twofold. Like people are like, don't really think there needs to be protein and everything. But also a lot of things are coming out saying they're a protein product and they still don't have much protein in them.
Yes.
So one of the big culprits that seems to catch a lot of heat is the protein Pop-Tarts. I guess that's a new thing.
I've seen so much shit about this. I do want to caveat this whole conversation though with, I have seen some like threads and stuff that I think kind of illuminated maybe something that I hadn't considered, which was that there are some people that like can't really cook for themselves or like maybe they don't have the time or the capabilities of cooking for themselves. So like having convenience products that have protein is very helpful for those people. Oh,
definitely. And I'll also add to that with the kind of rise of the weight loss drugs like GLP-1 medications and stuff, like at the rate at which a lot of people lose weight on those and they're not going to the gym, there is a pretty big like muscle mass loss problem if you're not doing that in a really specific way. And while you still kind of need to hit the gym to preserve your muscle mass, it does help a little to have extra protein. So and also some of them are apparently running into like actual protein deficiencies, which is something typically reserved for vegans, right? But so just adding in a little bit of protein to a bunch of random things that they might eat anyway is just an easy way for somebody on a drug like that that's pretty limited in how much food they're going to eat in a day. Yeah. They can get some of that in. So there are definitely valid use cases for it. And on the level, like extra protein or something's not going to hurt. Right. It's just there's a lot of backlash against like you're calling yourself a protein Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like, for me, I'm a little annoyed about the marketing. I feel like it's not super transparent. I don't necessarily have a problem with there being products like this on the market, especially if they help people that maybe they can't cook like a full meal that's around protein, or like having convenience options is helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I don't really have an issue with that. Obviously, why would I care? It's not my... I can not buy it if I don't want to buy it.
Right.
Which I also feel like all of you people bitching about it, if you don't want to buy it, don't fucking buy it.
Yeah.
But I do think they can be a lot more transparent about their labeling and stuff, which marketing in general, I think, very scummy. You should really I think especially with food, you have the option to go look at the nutrition label, and you should always look at the nutritional label and probably ignore any of the words on the front of the package, because they're smarmy and scammy, and they just want you to buy it.
I think that's a good tip, actually. When you pick something up, flip it over, start on the back.
Don't look at the buzzwords. I feel like it's kind of like the one type of product that you can avoid marketing, like the marketing scam, because all of the information's on the back, where it's like makeup products or like skincare products, or they use all the buzzwords too, and there's really no way to be like, oh well, that's not true,
right,
until you buy it.
And that's kind of why the government makes them put the label on there, so we might as well leverage that information.
Exactly. Just ignore all the shit on the front, go read the back. It'll help a lot.
So the protein Pop-Tarts specifically, now that we're talking about them, are 10 grams of protein and 380 calories.
That's the same amount of protein as a potato. Percentage-wise.
10 grams of 10% protein.
Yeah.
And they've also got a gram of fiber.
But if you compare it to a normal Pop-Tart, they've done a lot.
A normal Pop-Tart probably has 2 grams?
Yeah, probably 2 or 3 grams. So you're probably doubling or tripling the protein in a Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is technically a protein Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Would I say it is a protein-dense Pop-Tart? No.
Right.
It is a protein-added Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
They have added protein to that Pop-Tart.
It's a pretty low protein number for you to make that the main marketing gimmick for the Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Next is something that's a little more popular and is not really new, but there's a Lenny and Larry protein cookie, which is a popular vegan protein. They make a couple of products now, but a popular vegan protein cookie.
Right. And these have been in gas stations and stores for years.
Yeah.
It's one of the most easily accessible, I would say, vegan snack.
Yeah.
Especially vegan protein snack on the market, in my opinion.
Yeah. So these are 8 grams of protein for 210 calories, which is 15% protein. So they're barely beating out the protein Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
But they do have 5 grams of fiber.
That's true.
That's nice.
But if you compare it to a cookie, it definitely has a lot more protein than a cookie.
Right.
And I think that's kind of where they get away with this, because it is a protein cookie. It has more protein than a normal cookie.
Right. Yeah.
Feels like it should taste better for only having 15% protein, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. It would be more acceptable if this was a 30% protein cookie, or even a 25% protein cookie.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, I understand why you taste that way.
I know. Because I've made protein cookies and they taste a lot better than Lenny and Larry. Yeah. And the macros tend to be a little better.
Yeah. So kind of on the other side of that, there's the Mission brand carb balanced tortillas. They don't say protein on the packaging or on the marketing anywhere, really. But and they're actually kind of like a keto product.
Yeah.
So they are 6 grams of protein for 70 calories.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's 34% protein for a tortilla and 15 grams of fiber. And it's not marketed as a protein tortilla.
This is our cheat code. We eat these all the time.
Yeah.
It's a really easy way to add protein and fiber to your diet.
Yeah. And then another one that I think is super interesting is, so normal red lentil pasta, right, is not marketed as protein. It's just lentil-based pasta, vegan pasta, has 14 grams of protein and 190 calories. So that's 29% protein, 29% with 6 grams of fiber.
Yeah.
Sitting right next to that on the shelf is the Barilla Protein Plus pasta.
Yeah.
With only 10 grams for 190 calories. So the Protein Plus pasta has 21% protein, whereas the just normal red lentil pasta has more than that at 29%.
And it's the same brand.
And it has more fiber.
Yeah, it's the same brand making it. It's the same brand making the packaging.
Right.
But with the red lentil, it doesn't say protein on it.
Yeah.
I think it probably says like rich in protein, but it's not what they're marketing it as.
Yeah,
They're not like
it's not a protein
red lentil pasta. It's just red lentil pasta.
Right.
But it's got like a significant amount more protein than your protein pasta.
Yeah.
But that's like the marketing scam, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. So when we look at the label, the best way to understand something like this is to look at the protein and then compare it to the calories specifically. So don't look at like protein per serving. Don't look at protein per 100 gram because those are both pretty arbitrary and the 100 gram thing has water weight and a bunch of other issues.
Mm-hmm.
So look at the protein per calorie and compare products that way.
Yeah. So take your grams of protein, multiply that by 4, and then divide that number by the calories per serving.
Right.
And you get the percentage of protein on a calorie basis.
Right.
And then you can compare apples to apples.
Yeah. Because you're going to see a lot of things that are like, oh, what is it? Like I see people with peanut butter all the time.
Yeah.
Like, peanut butter has, I don't remember, it's 5 grams of protein in a serving or something. It's like, okay, but a serving is 300 calories. So.
Yeah. I think it's a little better than that, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's
a little better. I think it's 240 calories.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in general though, but then you might compare that to something else. It's like, oh, this only has 3 grams of protein in a serving. Okay, but that's 40 calories.
Yeah. Once you understand protein percentage on a calorie basis, it's going to help you make a lot better choices that fit your protein and your calories.
Yeah. And you'll also start to see how serving sizes in the U.S. are kind of manipulated to make you think it looks a little better than it does, even when you do have the label.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just assuming you won't do any math, basically.
Yeah. But I will do math. Every time I'll choose math. The thing that I think is funny is, okay, so like Lenny and Larry protein cookie, protein Pop-Tarts, blah, blah, blah. Those are like 10 to 15% protein. But then like take dry roasted edamame, which is 35 to 40% protein.
Yeah.
They don't market it as like high protein dry roasted edamame.
No. Yeah, the dry roasted edamame we have is 40%, I think. It was like right on the dot of that times 10 rule.
Right. It's just kind of funny.
Like the same as a protein bar, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's just a bean. It's a whole food.
I know. I think that's what's kind of funny.
Yeah.
The marketing madness is real. You got to look past that.
Right.
Or you will cheat yourself every time.
And there are, there are a lot of high protein products out there that are just not marketed as protein because they're just like whole food vegan protein sources that are naturally higher in protein.
Yeah. I will say there are a few like more like protein snacks that have come out on the market in the last couple of years that actually have like that 35 to 40% range.
Yeah.
The gym snack one I think was around 40%. Crisp Power protein pretzels are around 40%.
Yeah. Maybe
maybe a little higher than that actually.
Yeah.
The endurance protein chips, which seem to be on hiatus or something.
Just the one flavor you like.
Yeah, the only one I can eat.
The flavor I like is in great stock. They have piles of it.
I'm so happy for you. But yeah, those are like 40%.
Bada bean is
Yeah,
good.
Bada beans are, I think, around 20%.
Yeah, just broad
But
beans.
still better than a Lenny and Larry cookie, and they're not calling themselves like protein Bada beans. You know what I mean?
Right, and they're like 1 ingredient, 2 ingredients.
Yeah, they're like broad beans, but with spices.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so I think looking at the label is really important. Looking past any markety, gimmicky bullshit is incredibly important. Once you start reading the nutritional label, you're going to see how bad the marketing is.
Yeah. And also, something we didn't really mention is that the things that are marketed as protein are usually more expensive. So I guarantee the Barilla Protein Plus pasta is more expensive than the red lentil pasta that actually has more protein.
Oh, but, okay, actually, both of those are pretty decent, cheap options of getting your protein, though, because when I was making that protein database, they were, like, pretty good options.
Sure.
But yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
There are probably better examples I don't know of off the top of my head right now. But,
yeah.
But anything...
Dry roasted edamame versus Lenny and Larry cookies.
Right, yeah, something like that. But most of the things that are coming with, like, the protein premium, right? If they're like... Like, the protein Pop-Tarts are definitely more expensive than a normal Pop-Tart, but they aren't really giving you much more protein.
Yeah, so. You could just go eat a regular Pop-Tart and drink a protein shake, and you'd still be better off.
Yeah. So that's a lot of stuff about the information on the nutrition labels, but there might be situations where you have to eat food and you don't have a nutrition label available.
Yeah.
You still want to understand kind of where your protein is on those.
Like if you're eating out, or maybe if you're looking at recipes online. A lot of recipes online actually don't include nutritional information.
I think yours do, right?
Mine definitely do. Because it's always annoyed me that, like, I'm looking at this recipe and now I have to enter all this shit into my Fitness Pal to see if this is even something I want to make.
Which with your recipes, you also don't have to do because you put all your recipes into the MyFitnessPal global database.
Yeah, I did all that annoying part for you.
Wow. You're the perfect recipe creator for lazy, protein-focused vegans.
Because I want to be a lazy, protein-focused vegan.
It's really the ultimate goal.
But like I do see a lot of like recipe reels or like just content on social media where they're like showing you how to make something, right?
Right.
And they're like, here are all the ingredients and it's high protein this and high protein that. And like you're looking at them and it's like there's no nutrition information. I feel like, okay, here's my hot take. If you're putting out recipes online and you're calling shit high protein or saying any other like statement about your recipe, you need to have the fucking macros in your recipe.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You don't get to call shit high protein or protein or high fiber, low calorie, whatever, unless you have the freaking nutrition information available for people to look at.
Right.
I don't know. This is like my big pet peeve. It's so annoying to me because I'll look at recipes and it's like, these are protein cupcakes. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is a normal cupcake recipe with like 3 tablespoons of protein powder.
Right.
These aren't protein cupcakes.
So that's like a quarter tablespoon of protein per cupcake.
I pissed into the ocean. Like,
yeah.
Sorry, this is like a big annoyance for me.
It happens a lot. And I'm sure it's an annoyance for the people who go to make these too. Because they'll get around at some point to eventually doing the math and be like, wait, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. The marketing is not just on food you're going to buy in the grocery store. It's also like everywhere. Like content creators, influencers, they're also using the same marketing gimmicks to get you to make their shit or follow their page or whatever.
Yeah. I think it's important to try to be, especially like with you, where you have a protein-focused recipe site, it's important to show the macros so people know what they're getting themselves into.
You need to be transparent.
Yeah.
Everyone should be transparent. If you're following someone that's not transparent, you should ask yourself, why are they not being transparent? I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You can follow whoever the hell you want.
Right.
You can make whatever you want. I'm just giving you my opinion as someone who's been on the internet a lot.
Yeah. But in those cases where you're maybe like looking at recipes or you're going to a restaurant and trying to order some food, there are a couple of things you can do to kind of make sure you're getting higher protein if that's what you're looking for. So the first thing is to check the source of the protein. So like there are a couple of vegan protein sources that are really high protein. There are a couple that are like lower protein. So I think kind of the order of operations there is seitan.
Probably the highest.
Or vital wheat gluten is typically like the highest percentage of protein per calorie.
Yep.
So if you see a dish and it's like the protein source is seitan, you can be pretty sure that that's a fairly high protein dish.
Yeah. The
next up would be like something like TVP.
Yeah. So seitan is usually like, 70 to 90% protein.
Yeah.
TVP is usually 60 to 70% protein, sometimes 50%.
Right.
Like so then seitan, 70 to 90, TVP, 50 to 70.
Yeah.
Next up would be tofu, which is usually around 40%.
Right. So we're still in that protein bar type territory, that benchmark we were kind of talking about.
Then you got beans and lentils that are like 25 to 30%.
Right.
Then if you see things like cauliflower on the menu as the protein source, you know that shit's fucked up.
Why do cauliflower wings exist? We can have seitan wings. We can have tofu wings. We can have TVP wings.
Yeah.
Why are we making cauliflower wings?
I don't even care that they make them, but that's a side dish. Yeah. That's not a main. I wouldn't care if you served it as a side dish, but like I would still like a main protein source with an actual protein source.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to wrap something in dough and throw it in a deep fryer, please at least put some protein on the inside. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. So yeah, I think those are the ones you look for. You look for seitan or vital wheat gluten, then TVP, then tofu, then like beans and lentils.
Yeah. And beans and lentils are still good. They're just, lower protein.
Yeah. And actually mushrooms are about 40-ish% protein too, but they're very they're not calorically dense, which also means they're not like protein dense on a weight basis. So you'd have to eat a lot. Yeah.
You'd have to have a kind of a gallon jug full of mushrooms to really.
Which don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah. So then also something to look at is for that protein source, how much of that is used in comparison to the other ingredients?
Yeah.
Are you talking we were talking about tofu salads a little bit last week. Like, is this just a thing where you got like 4 cubes of tofu on top of this big cheese and dressing and lettuce and whatever?
Yeah. Or like it's a seitan sandwich, but like it's on a huge like loaf of bread, and there's a lot of like creamy sauces and cheeses, and like
Yeah.
it's probably gonna water down the protein percentage quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think you can look similarly to the recipe too. Like, look, because I mean, even though they might not tell you nutrition information, I would hope if they're telling you it's a recipe, they're also giving you measurements for like how much of each ingredient. So kind of like compare.
Yeah.
And I think also knowing the calorie, like having a general idea of the calorie density of the other ingredients kind of helps. Because I mean, that's kind of how I look at it, right? Like if I know there's oil in something, like I have a much better chance of keeping the protein percentage up if it's something like seitan versus tofu.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's how I build recipes actually, is like, I'll look at like, I need to add like sugar and flour to this thing. Like what's high enough percentage of protein that it'll balance out and still end up around 30% protein total.
Right. Yeah. They're like, if you're looking at a dish or a plate at the restaurant, there are like some things you can see that kind of start to chip away at the protein percentage.
Yep.
So like the breading, if it was fried, we've got now oil involved. If we've got sauces,
dressings,
so all
vegan
that stuff,
cheese.
Like, the more of those things there are, then the more calories are coming from fats and not coming from protein. So if you're
on a bulk, this probably doesn't matter to you. But like if you have a pretty tight calorie goal and a protein goal,
right,
you do want to be aware of these things,
right? Because you can only eat 2,500 calories a day or whatever, and you've got to get your protein into that.
Yeah. It's like, maybe the dish was 40 grams of protein, but that doesn't really help me if it was also 1,200 calories.
Right. And I mean, even if you're not really tracking things and you're just like, okay, well, I need to kind of maintain my weight and I want to get a lot of protein in, then you can still use these visual tips to kind of say, okay, I want to lean towards stuff that it's got bigger portions of these protein sources, not a lot of oil, not a lot of fried stuff going on, and just kind of, mentally adjust for that.
No creamy dressings unless those creamy dressings are made with silicon tofu.
Right. Yeah. So those are some tips for the restaurants and the recipes, as well as, all the information for the nutrition label. If you think of any questions maybe we didn't cover that you want a little more clarification on, feel free to leave a comment or reach out, ask us on Instagram or something like that. And we'll be happy to talk more and cover maybe some of that information in a future podcast.
And if I got a little heated on the recipe thing, I apologize. This is probably like my biggest...
You're a passionate recipe creator.
I have a lot of opinions.
All right. So let's move into our myth of the week this week, which is that you need a restrictive diet to lose weight.
What do you mean by restrictive?
Yeah, so a restrictive diet would be something where you're restricting mostly a macro. So like a keto diet where you're doing really low carb, or maybe like a low fat diet where you're basically eliminating fat. You're mostly doing carbs and protein. Something like a carnivore diet, which aside from the carnivore thing is basically like a very high fat, low carb type of diet, kind of like keto. Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like there have been so many iterations of this. Like there was the grapefruit diet where it was like eat only grapefruits or something. And then there was the Atkins diet. I feel like it was one of the ones I remember. There was like the Slim Fast diet of like you're just drinking Slim Fast shakes.
Right.
There have just been like so many and I think keto's like the current iteration of it. And the carnivore diet is another one.
Yeah.
And it's like, can we just eat normal things?
Right.
I don't know. Tell us, can we?
Yeah. So most of these diets, the reason that they're successful in the short term for weight loss specifically, I mean, there are a lot of other health issues that come along with these most of the time, but for weight loss specifically, they're all just ways of cutting out a lot of junk food, basically. So you're cutting out like sodas and you're cutting out, cookies and stuff like that. And then you're typically eating more whole foods on a lot of them just because of the way they're made.
Yeah.
So you will keep losing weight a little bit because you're not eating the junk food as much.
Yeah. You're also on a calorie deficit too.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah. I mean, the main reason you lose the weight is because you're in a calorie deficit.
But you might lose additional weight because of like water weight loss.
Well, you'll see very fast results because the water weight changes.
Yeah.
So you're going to lose weight on the scale much faster than you're actually losing body mass from the calorie deficit.
Yeah.
Just because of the diet change. I mean, if you lower your carbs a lot, carbs hold water.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to lose a ton of water weight just by limiting carbs no matter what else you do. That's not actually body fat at the beginning that you're losing. It's just extra water.
Yeah.
So,
and if you add carbs back in, you're going to regain that water weight, right?
Which, again, still not body fat. It's just water manipulation, basically.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when, fighters go into a fight and they need to drop weight to weigh in. They do a lot of this kind of stuff to a more extreme degree, but it's just, you can change your body weight very significantly just by manipulating the water content.
Yeah, which I actually think is like an interesting, this isn't really what this topic is about, but I think it is an interesting piece of like why you can't just trust the scale, and like you should be doing, like, if you're really on a weight loss journey, you should also be taking your measurements, or like maybe doing progress photos. Like, there's going to be stuff that you see in body compositional changes that can't be measured on the scale.
Yeah. So a lot of these restrictive diets aren't great for sustaining long term because you get sick of it, basically. Like,
yeah, you get burnt out.
You get burnt out, and then you go have the cookie or whatever, and then you're like, okay, I want all the cookies, and then you're just back to normal. So
I knew a couple people that were doing like keto a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I was listening to them talk, and they were like, I'm so tired of eating butter and bacon. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's just like a wild thing to say.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, it's basically a rehashing of Atkins from a million years ago. So.
Or the grapefruit. Like, it's just like, pick one food and eat it. Or like the juicing diets.
No, dude.
Don't
get me started on like the juice cleanses and the detoxes. Like, pretty much anytime you see juice cleanse or detox marketed to you, you're being scammed. Whether the person knows they're scamming you or not, they're just like a middleman for the scam. I don't know. But that stuff is very dangerous in a lot of cases. So.
Honestly, we should just rename this podcast the Marketing Podcast. that actually is the overall summary, is don't trust marketing.
Yeah.
On diets, on food labels, on anything.
Right. So as far as like what actually works to lose weight is a calorie deficit. So you eat fewer calories than you burn in a day. Now, there are a lot of things that can go into that, but if we're just talking about, in this case, the calorie intake side, that's a lot simpler than the calorie out side. So for intake, it doesn't need to be low carb, low fat, whatever. Like, the calorie math just needs to work out at the end of the day. So,
it's just an energy balance. Like,
yeah. So the general term for this is called, like, if it fits your macros. So basically, as long as you're getting in your calories and you're hitting your protein and you're not going over whatever other macros or micronutrients that you've assigned for yourself as goals, then you can pretty much eat any combination of food, and it should probably be as close to balanced as possible, because fats are helpful. Carbs are helpful for performance, even if they're not like necessary for the human body to survive. Protein, obviously helpful. Fiber, obviously helpful. So that's why you're also seeing a lot of things like, stop talking about protein, talk about fiber.
Fiber maxing's all over my FYP.
For me, I kind of like, here's the way I like to eat. It's high protein, high fiber, high carb, high fat.
High everything.
Yeah, everything's about as
within
high.
your calorie limit.
Right, exactly. I eat as much of those things as I can and under my calorie limit. So, yeah. So some ways you can do this that do help, instead of restricting entire macronutrients, is to focus on like the quality of the food you eat and make sure it keeps you full. So things like high volume foods, like stuff that has a lot of water or takes a long time to digest.
Vegetables mostly,
yeah. Fruit also for the water content.
Yep.
High
watermelon. Just eat watermelon, guys.
Oh, you'll get so full.
I love watermelon.
I dare you to eat an entire watermelon. And
I can't wait till watermelon season's happening.
Yeah.
I remember I used to take like a huge Tupperware every morning, and I'd just eat that, and then I'd be peeing like all day.
Watermelon's so good.
Oh, it's so good. Anyway.
Easy way to get your water info today, too. Also, high fiber. So that's good to keep you a little more full, but also just good for your health in general.
And the calories don't count on fiber.
Yeah, for the most part.
So it's like you're getting freebies.
Right. Yeah. And then if you focus on mostly whole foods, that kind of naturally leads you towards more of that high volume type stuff. Your body has to like go through the trouble to break it down. A lot of processed food breaks down a lot quicker, so you're hungry quicker, basically, is how that works. So the closer you can get to whole food, the better. So I would say, do a balanced diet, mostly whole foods, lots of fruit and vegetables, high fiber, drink a lot of water, and then just, try to use that to stay under your calorie limit. And as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. That's what it means. So
yeah, I also think the highly restricted and limiting diets, I feel like those just don't work long term. You're gonna burn yourself out. Like, if you never get pizza or like foods that you really enjoy,
yeah,
when you fall off the wagon, you're gonna fall off it really hard.
Yeah, my take on this has been, you shouldn't really have like a set of foods that are a diet foods. Like,
Yeah.
You should still just eat mostly the foods you like, just less of them. Especially if it's like the junk food, like less of that. You don't have to eat none of that. You should eat way less of that.
Right.
But then even all your normal foods, like like when you go to lose weight, you shouldn't be transitioning into, oh, this is the time I eat salad for half the month or something like that. You eat normal food. You just eat like half the serving, a little less of it.
Yeah, or maybe like add a little bit of protein to it. Like when we eat pizza with protein pizza dough.
Right.
And it tastes exactly like normal pizza dough. It just has like higher protein.
And I think the way to think about that is, okay, if you're changing your diet pretty drastically and eating a like totally different foods when you're trying to lose weight, what happens when you get to your weight loss goal?
Yeah. What are you going to be eating?
Do you just go right back to that stuff you were eating and gain all the weight back?
You're going to regain it. Yeah.
So, I mean, it shouldn't be this switch you flip that's like, okay, I'm eating all this different food now. Because what happens when you get there?
Yeah. You have to have a lifestyle you can maintain afterwards.
So, the myth that you need to use a restrictive diet to lose weight is definitely not true.
Debunked.
So what updates do you have going on in protein deficient vegan land this week?
Okay, this one's pretty exciting because I am doing my first ever giveaway.
Oh, that is exciting.
Because like no other company's ever asked me to do a giveaway before. And I'm actually glad because this one is actually, I would say, really cool.
Yeah.
Chris Power makes protein pretzels.
Yeah.
And they're like 25 to 26 grams of protein for only 200 calories, and they also have fiber.
Yeah.
But they said they would give somebody that comments on my video 6 boxes, which is like 36 bags of their protein pretzels for free, which is like, I think, over $100 worth of products.
Yeah, it's a lot of pretzels.
Yeah. We've been eating them for like a couple months and they're really, really good.
Yeah, this is something I actually genuinely like. They have the spicy ones and I'll eat like a bag every day.
Really good macros.
Yeah.
Like over 40%. I like the cheddar ones.
Yeah.
But my giveaway will still be going on when you hear this podcast on Monday the 2nd. And it will, I think it's closing on March 4th at 3 p.m. Central.
Okay.
So basically you just have to comment on the video and tag somebody and you'll get entered into it, and then they're randomly selecting someone.
Yeah. So if you want 1,000 grams of protein worth of pretzels, then enter the giveaway.
I'm just excited. I think more companies should offer to give my people free shit.
I agree.
I don't even really want the free shit. I want you to give my people free shit. I'm very excited.
I think I might enter the giveaway as pretzel deficient vegan.
I'm excited because, like, you see a lot of giveaways where it's like, you get 3 bags of this. But they're like, no, we're going to give you 36 bags.
It's so much. Like, you had the video where you dumped out basically the equivalent of the
pretzels. It's like a shit ton.
Yeah. It's so many pretzels.
It's going to last you a while. It's 36 bags.
36 bags. So, like, even if you did eat one a day, it's over a month's worth of these pretzels.
And they're pretty addictive.
Yeah.
Anyways, I hope someone that listens to this wins.
Yeah, good luck.
Godspeed. What about you? You got any updates in muscle deficient vegan land?
No major updates. Just still working with the clients on the giveaway, doing some research for some blog posts. Hoping to have some of those posted pretty soon. Just chugging right along.
Just like a little choo-choo train. What is it? The little engine that could.
I think I can write a blog post. I think I can write a blog post.
We believe in you.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. If you guys could comment and subscribe and follow and like and do all those cool things on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
They'll make us real happy.
And then, on Spotify and YouTube, you can leave comments, which people do, and we appreciate it.
And they're always awesome because you guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you want to join our Discord, it'll be linked in the show notes or whatever.
Yeah.
And we've got like 50 really cool people in there.
That's true.
That share pictures of the food they eat, and they talk about how they're hitting their goals, and there's an accountability section, and we have like vegan news where people like share what's going on.
Yeah. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then also we've got our websites, proteindeficientvegan.com, muscledeficientvegan.com, linked in the show notes, and our Instagrams and other ways to get in touch with us. So if you just want to reach out, send a message, ask a question, feel free. We both like hearing from people. All right. That's pretty much it. Do you want to say bye?
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.